flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Jackson Township Planning Board meeting on September 23rd. And this meeting has been adequately noticed under the Open Public Meetings Act and all the appropriate forums and places. And therefore, it's been adequately noticed. And I'll pass it off to Madam Chairwoman.
And we'll have a roll call, please.
Mr. Brezzi? Here. Mr. Bernstein?
Here.
Mr. Marzo?
Here.
Mr. Heller?
Here.
Mr. Riker? Ms. Rose? Mr. Tremor?
Here.
Mr. Weingart?
Here.
Mr. Wall? Mr. Sullivan?
Here.
Dr. Campbell?
Here. And we have a vote for the voucher for the recording secretary, please.
Second. Sullivan.
You want a roll call?
Roll call, please.
Mr. Brezzi? Yes. Mr. Bernstein? Yes. Mr. Marzo?
Yes.
Mr. Heller?
Yes.
Mr. Tremor?
Yes.
Mr. Weingart?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Dr. Campbell?
Yes. And a move for approval of the minutes from the August 19th regular meeting, please.
Motion we approve the minutes. Tramer?
Okay. Eligible to vote are Mr. Marzo, Mr. Heller, Mr. Riker, sorry, he's not here, so it was Mr. Tremor, Mr. Weingart, Mr. Sullivan, and Dr. Campbell. So, Mr. Marzo,
Yes.
Mr. Heller,
Yes.
Mr. Tremor,
Yes.
Mr. Weingart,
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan,
Yes.
Dr. Campbell.
Yes. And an approval of minutes for September 9th.
Make a
Please.
motion we approve the minutes for September 9th. Tramer?
Second Heller.
Mr. Brezzi, Mr. Bernstein, Mr. Marzo,
Yes.
Mr. Heller,
Yes.
Mr. Tremor,
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan,
Yes.
Dr. Campbell.
Yes, and for the minutes, Mr. Wall
Mr. Wall.
Mr. Wall is here. Thank you.
Thank you, yes.
Resolutions, please.
See, Resolution 2024-31, resolution of the Planning Board of the Township of Jackson, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, granting a 10-year statutory extension period for the preliminary and final major site plan approval and preliminary and final major subdivision approval for 482 single-family residential building lots for Krupnik Realty Holding Company, LLC, Block 19301, Lot 4. Eligible to vote are Mr. Brezzi, Mr. Marzo, Mr. Heller, Mr. Tremor, Mr. Wall, and Dr. Campbell.
Take a motion, please.
Second Tramer?
Mr. Brezzi? Yes. Mr. Marzo?
Yes.
Mr. Heller?
Yes.
Mr. Tremor?
Yes.
Mr. Wall?
Yes.
And Dr. Campbell.
Yes. And we have a second resolution.
Yes. Resolution 2024-32, resolution of the Planning Board of the Township of Jackson, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, granting approval amendment to Resolution 2023-30 to the preliminary and final major site plan for a daycare facility for Bennett's Mills Realty LLC, Block 12201, Lots 16 and 18. Eligible to vote are Mr. Brezzi, Mr. Bernstein, Mr. Marzo, Mr. Heller, Mr. Tremor, Mr. Wall, Mr. Sullivan, and Dr. Campbell.
A motion, please.
So moved. Sullivan.
Mr. Brezzi? Yes. Mr. Bernstein? Yes. Mr. Marzo?
Yes.
Mr. Heller?
Yes.
Mr. Tremor?
Yes.
Mr. Wall?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Dr. Campbell.
Yes. Ms. DiMarzo, we have a master plan update.
Yes, good evening. Earlier this evening, the Master Plan Subcommittee met with our consultants, and we are continuing our work on finalizing the land use element right now of the master plan. We'll continue to keep you apprised as we continue along. Thanks.
We have some changes to the agenda schedule. Block 6501, Lot 42.02, My Address LLC, carry from December 2nd to December 16th with notice required. We have a motion on approving that, please?
So moved, Sullivan. Second, Heller.
And a vote, please. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Block 3902, Lot 58, Bellevue Estates LLC, carry from December 16th to January 6th for scheduling purposes only. We'll take a motion to approve that move.
So moved, Sullivan.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any engineering? And any planning matters? And any legal matters?
None at this time.
Okay, then we can get right into it. Ms. Jennings?
Thank you. Good evening. For the record, I'm Donna Jennings from the law firm of Lentz, Goldman, and Spitzer. On behalf of the applicant, we're here this evening seeking preliminary and final major subdivision approval to subdivide property located on North County Line Road and Piccadilly Drive and identified as Block 5202, Lot 1 on the township's tax maps. The applicant proposes to create 3 new lots to be identified as proposed Block 5202, Lot 1.02 and 1.01, and Block 5201, Lot 1.01. Additionally, the applicant is seeking preliminary and final major site plan approval to construct a 2-story, approximately 20,000 square foot house of worship with an accessory mikveh and related site improvements on the new proposed Block 5202, Lot 1.01. The current property is approximately 14.6 acres. Houses of worship and mikvahs are permitted uses in the zone. Prior to the adoption of the new ordinance, the proposed house of worship was permitted as a conditional use, and the applicant previously received a conditional use permit variance from the Zoning Board of Adjustment, which was memorialized by a resolution dated November 15, 2023, to construct the house of worship with related site improvements. Further, the applicant is seeking bulk variance relief from proposed Block 5201, Lot 1.01, and Block 5202, Lot 1.02, with respect to minimum lot frontage and minimum lot width. These variants were also previously granted by the Zoning Board. The applicant will, however, tonight present testimony that's entitled to the C1 bulk variance relief because the proposed lots are uniquely shaped, severely restricted by wetlands, and contain a portion of Piccadilly Drive which cannot be relocated due to the wetlands located on both proposed lots fronting North County Line Road. The property must be subdivided because a previous subdivision for the property was never perfected, and a portion of Piccadilly Drive between the proposed lots was never dedicated to the township, although it is used as a thoroughfare to get out to Hampshire Hills, which was constructed by Kaplan. Second, the record will show that granting the bulk variances will not cause substantial detriment to the public good or substantially impair the intent and purpose of the zone plan. No improvements are proposed on the 2 lots, and the 2 lots will essentially look identical as they are today. The applicant will rely on the witnesses' testimony of 3 witnesses, Graham McFarland, sitting to my left, the engineer and planner, Naftali Gutt, the architect, and Scott Kennel, the traffic engineer. The applicant would like to acknowledge for the record the following reports: the board planner's review letter dated September 16, 2024, the board engineer's review letter dated September 20, 2024, the Jackson Township Police Department traffic safety review letter dated July 9, 2024, and the fire review memo dated April 30th, 2024. So with that, if we could have Mr. McFarland sworn in, we can begin our case.
It's like I just saw you.
It's because we just saw it.
Everywhere I go, I see the same people.
You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
All right, please state your name and spell your last for the record.
Sure, it's Graham McFarlane, M-A-C-F-A-R-L-A-N-E, professional engineer, professional planner, previously qualified and testified before this board on many occasions.
Just a few
Welcome
times.
back.
Yeah. The board accepts the credentials?
Thank you very much.
Okay, if you could, Graham, just walk the board through the existing site conditions and the applicant's proposal, and if you're just going to rely on any exhibits, just please identify them for the record.
Yes, you can see we have Exhibit A1 up on the screen, which is an aerial map showing the subject premises. The property in total is about 14.6 acres or so. The property has frontage on North County Line Road, which basically runs left to right on the bottom part of the of A1 that you're looking at. Piccadilly Drive runs north to south through the parcel in question. You can see on the map that we do show there are two tributaries to the south branch of the Matinecock River. They're important to note those because that's a Category 1 water, so there is a 300-foot riparian buffer associated with both the east branch of the unnamed tributary and the west branch of the unnamed tributary, and they show on that aerial map for reference.
Mr. McFarland, before you start rolling on, you're testifying as both an engineer and a professional planner, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
You can also see the proposed lot to be developed.
I'm sorry, do you have a pointer? I
do.
Thank you.
What would you like me to point out?
We're very high maintenance tonight.
So we have North County Line Road on the bottom. We have Piccadilly Drive runs up and down the sheet. You have the boundary of the parcel, of the total parcel, outlined in orange. We have the two tributaries to the Matinecock, one on the west side of Piccadilly, one on the east side of Piccadilly. We have wetlands corridor in here and flood hazard area basically in here and in here close to the stream. This black line, heavier black line here, represents the limit of the 300-foot riparian buffer, which is measured from the top of the bank of each side of the stream. So the west side and the east side each have a 300-foot riparian buffer that create this curved line and this curved line. That leaves it left about 1.6 or 1.7 acres of the site here, which is not encumbered by the wetlands or the riparian buffer, so that's where the development is proposed. We are proposing to subdivide this parcel to create a new lot for the shul, for the synagogue to be developed, which is going to be on the northwestern corner of the property. And you can see that in yellow. That's the site improvements that are proposed as part of the application. Go to A2 for me next. So A2 is the site plan. You can see that we are proposing, which is the new synagogue, which has a total building area of about 21,000 square feet, a two-story plus basement. You can see a single access point off of Piccadilly, loop around the driveway that provides for access, circulation, and parking. Right now, this plan calls for 104 parking spaces based upon a lot of discussion we've had with the board's professionals and getting this new ordinance interpreted properly. I would stipulate that we're going to provide 110 parking spaces. We have 100 spaces physically proposed, plus the statute does allow us to provide for 10% EV parking spaces and get the bonus credit for that. So we're going to add some EV parking spaces. Right now, there are 4 EV parking spaces proposed. We're going to add another 6 EV parking spaces. That will get us to a total parking credit of 110 parking spaces. That will require us to make a very slight adjustment to the building. As of right now, we have three areas that are utilized for the parking tabulation. We have a main assembly area, or the main assembly area. We have the secondary assembly area, and then we have a gallery. That gallery area right now is about 1,520 square feet, plus or minus. Running through all the math, if we take about 30 square feet out of that gallery area, that gets the math to work to the 110 parking spaces. So we're going to be making that adjustment to the building, just reducing that gallery area a touch to get us down to the 110 required and 110 proposed.
One question, the EV parking spaces, will they be away from the building?
We'll locate them wherever the town would like them. Right now, we have the first 4 shown here, but frankly, I don't have any preference whether they're close to or away from the building.
Usually, we prefer having them away from the building for fire protection
Right, and
purposes.
there's pluses and minuses to each, but you're correct, the fire department typically likes to see them a little bit further away from the building.
I do believe that one of the handicap has to be EV and then it has to be
Correct.
near the building.
Correct.
And how many handicap are required?
I believe it's 3, it's either 3 or 4. It's whatever we have shown on the plan, it's 3. So we have 3 handicap spaces shown. We do not have an EV space shown right now at the handicap. Of course, we'll have to rectify that.
All right. Thank you.
You can go to A3 next for me, Anthony. A3 is the subdivision plan that Donna spoke about briefly. A little twist in this application that we were all kind of perplexed when we started diving into this project. And everything you look at, when you look at tax maps and the physical improvement, everybody would say that Piccadilly Drive is a public street that's been dedicated to the township as part of the development of Hampshire Hills. But unfortunately, there was no documentation to confirm that this last piece of Piccadilly was ever dedicated to the municipality. The county didn't have any records for a final plat. So the property, as it exists today, this is all one parcel, one tax lot, block 5202, lot 1. Even though there are lands lying to the west of Piccadilly, Piccadilly, which is obviously improved, and then lands lying to the east of Piccadilly. So this subdivision plan is required. The subdivision application was presented to create 3 new tax lots plus to create the right-of-way to dedicate Piccadilly to the municipality. When the Hampshire Hills development was approved about 20 years ago, this was section 7, had 7 sections inside Hampshire Hills. This area was known as section 3. And section 3 was approved with a stipulation on the map that it was an area reserved for commercial development. So at the time of the approval, 20 whatever years ago, that's what the section 3 map said. But however, we were the owner of the property and the original developer of the property, Kaplan, K-Land Group, they could not provide any confirmation that map was ever presented for filing, that any bonds were ever posted, or that the street was ever dedicated to the municipality. So our understanding is that process has to occur. The first step in that process is presentation of a final plat subdivision for this board to approve. Next step would be for map to be filed, bonding if required by the municipality. I don't believe there's going to be any improvements necessary, so I don't think there's going to be any bonding needed, but we let the township engineer determine that. And then finally, there has to be a procedure for the municipality to actually accept the roadway improvements and the right-of-way dedication. So there may have to be some inspection by the township engineering department. There may have to be some asphalt cores to determine pavement thickness and how that road was improved in accordance with current standards. So it's definitely going to be a process to make that happen. But I believe that process does have to occur for this to be finalized the way that it should have been finalized.
Mr.
Madam
McFarland,
Chair?
I'll bet money that the township has been plowing that road for the last 8 years, 9. I was just there today. Looks like a real.
Yeah, the
Madam
road's
Chair?
been there since 2008.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
It looks like a road, acts like a road, feels like a road, but again,
Looks like a road.
there's no documentation to show that map was filed to create the right-of-way, and no documentation to show that the improvements have been accepted or the road ever accepted by the municipality.
I would even think it's safe to say the township has paved that road since it was originally put in.
Madam Chair? If I might,
Yes, sir.
in fairness to the hearing, I agree with everything that Graham's
said as it relates to the non-dedication of Piccadilly Lane. Mr. Klee and I have been here a long time. I can confirm, I was a consulting engineer for the town in 2001, and Piccadilly was there then. As Hampshire Hills progressed with sections. So to the extent that there's not a good answer, what I can give the applicant credit for is cleaning this up. So to the extent that they talk about a hardship or talk about this or that, please just understand, when you drive down the road, the first right-hand turn after the white butterfly is Piccadilly. It's been there for as long as we can remember. So it's not a situation necessarily that this applicant caused. It may have been a predecessor in title. It may, quite frankly, have been part of the township. We don't know. They've done some research, and I can't add any additional information because we've gone back in records over 25 years and can't find any of the same information that I believe Graham and Ms. Jennings have researched. So I thought it was necessary to make a record, at least from this side of the table, that what they've said is true as it relates to either the applicant, the owner, the board's professionals, or the municipality to verify that that road was ever dedicated. It's not on the tax map. But we know that it gets taken care of, and it doesn't get taken care of by a homeowners association. It gets taken care of by our Public Works Department. So thank you.
Thank you. And I was there today. There's new construction on that road as of today. So it exists. It is what it is.
Well, I think we can kind of handle this a couple different ways. Number one, that road, it looks like from the historical evidence, was born as a result of a residential development, and it was made pursuant to the RSIS standards. So it looks like it was constructed according to the township standards. Now, I would just do two things, two conditions, and then we can just kind of move on. So one, just simply being that the road has got to be met to township standards, right? Constructed, inspected, and township engineer will conduct all that. And then the second condition is just that the dedication, formally takes place. That's it. Yeah, because it's not, it was born as a result of a residential development. And it looks like it's been in operational use since about 2008 in its current form, which means that the performance bonds had to be released to a certain extent, which also means that the township inspection had to have happened in 2008. So that's as far as I'll go into that. Yeah.
Right, and again, this was designated Section 3. I was not provided with any documentation regarding bonding or inspection of Section 3. The owner of the property did give us some documentation which related to Section 2, but nothing on Section 3. So anyway, that's the facts as we understand it.
Right.
Related
But if
to-
you put the conditions in there, then
related to
everything
Piccadilly
has to be
Drive.
copacetic anyway.
Madam Chair.
But if you could then just touch on the variances that exist, they kind of exist today, but we should ask for them formally again.
Correct. So you can see, again, referring to the final plat we have up there, which is
I think Mr. Klee wants to chime in.
Just real quick, and I think Graham was, headed in this direction, but the variance relief that's being requested is driven by
As a result of, yeah.
trying to clean this mess up.
correct. But just for the record, again, referring to A3, which is a subdivision plan, I believe there are 4 total variances that would be required, and they relate to the new lots being proposed that have frontage on County Line Road for new lot 5201, lot 1.01, the lot line west of Piccadilly. There's no frontage on County Line Road. Actually, Ocean County has, you can see these triangles here. We call those triangles corner clips. When we submitted this to the county, we originally had a radius and a radius. Ocean County wanted those they call corner clip right away, so ends up in a little unique condition where there's actually no street frontage of this new lot on County Line Road. It's just a corner. So anyway, 200 feet is required, and there is no frontage on County Line Road for that lot. Lot width, 200 feet is required. We measure that at the setback line, which falls about here, and we get about 100 feet of lot width required, so that variance is requested. And for the lands remaining on the east side of Piccadilly, similar condition, but the deviations are not as significant. The frontage on County Line Road here is about 170 feet, where 200 is required. Lot width at the setback, right in here or so, is about 180 feet, where the 200 is required, so those variances are requested. They satisfy the C1 hardship, unique conditions and circumstances, and no significant detriment to the ordinance or the zone plan. As to the building itself, Anthony, go to A4 for me real quick. And I'm just going to show the rendering. That's the architect's rendering of what the building is going to look like. Main entrance. This, of course, is the parking area. This would be the side of the building facing Piccadilly. There is access to around both sides of the building, both on this west side and over on the east side as well. That show on the architectural plan views. And I'll let the architect provide some more discussion about the building. But this is the concept of what this building is generally going to look like. And just one other item to discuss, because it was such a significant issue when this property was developed, that this particular parcel, before it was known as Hampshire Hills, it was known as a Powers Farm, and a Powers Farm had some documented contamination that did undergo remediation, all overseen by the DEP. That has all been completed. There was correspondence from the DEP issued in 2015 that indicated any remedial action items had been satisfied and completed. The only requirement continuing for any houses to be built on the parcel or any buildings to be built on the parcel is a passive ventilation system in the basement of any of those buildings. So the homes in Hampshire Hills have those, and this building is bound by that same requirement in accordance with that, again, that previous contamination from dumping and activities that occurred on a Powers Farm decades ago. Property is going to be served by public water and public sewer. We have been progressing with the DEP on what's called the WQMP update, because the property is not in the designated sewer service area. That's actually been recommended for approval by the DEP, and hopefully we'll have that in another 60 to 90 days. And then we would be able to file for a sewer extension permit and get that portion of the job completed. And we do have letters from both professionals, beginning with Mr. Peters' letter dated September 16th. Of course, he discusses the application and gives some summary of the past history and the use variance that was obtained, as Mr. Peters was the planner for the zoning board at the time as well. He summarizes our proposal to subdivide the lot, tabulates the bulk requirements, indicates that the plan as presented would have required a variance for parking, but I stipulated that we're going to rectify that condition and say that no variance for parking is required. Mr. Peters, of course, points out some of the environmental facts. LOI has been issued for the project. Flood hazard area determination has been issued. We made those applications to the DEP. Application for riparian disturbance is currently pending at the DEP. We've been working with them on getting that buttoned up. And let's see. Mr. Peters' comments about sidewalk along Piccadilly, and Anthony, maybe go back to A2. Anthony, go back to A2 for me. So Mr. Peters' comments on the need for sidewalk, and I think this is something that the board has to rectify. You can see that this is the proposed lot for the synagogue. This is the lot line. We have sidewalk proposed from the driveway leading back to the Hampshire Hills development. All of the development, of course, is located up here to the north, going down towards County Line Road, wrapping around a corner, other side of Piccadilly, wrapping around a corner. All those lands are within the riparian buffer. We're not proposing sidewalk within those areas. I don't think there's any benefit to it. I think the board has to rectify whether we're required by ordinance to have sidewalk or make contribution. We're only proposing to develop this portion of the site, and we're hopeful that the board interprets the ordinance that we only have to have sidewalk on the portion of the property that's being developed, not the property that is just being subdivided. But I don't think I've ever dealt with that condition in front of this board, so I think that's something that needs to be discussed.
And you know we love sidewalks.
I do as well.
For the sake of safety. Mr. Peters, what's your thought here?
Madam Chair, if we're going to build a community facility, we should think in terms of the community. If folks are going to walk on County Line Road, they ought to be on sidewalks, period. I'm not looking to spend anyone else's money or make anything more difficult. If the applicant needs help putting a safety measure like sidewalks in from a permitting process, I'll volunteer and go to the council and ask them to say, we need a 4-foot wide sidewalk for a couple of 100 feet to get people safely from County Line Road to the job site, regardless of whose property it is. They have to get a permit to develop their entrance to the site off Piccadilly because it's in the 300-foot buffer. I understand that, but let's look at this from a use perspective.
We don't know what's going to be going on that stretch of road, on County Line Road in the future. So we're always thinking of the future, and safety is our main concern. So perhaps, and I understand the pedestrian nature of the facility for much of the time, not all of the time, and we really like to encourage, so I agree with you, Mr. Peters, if we can recommend that there be sidewalk there, I really don't care who puts it in. We do have a fund, and that fund could fund sidewalks, but we would recommend, as a board, sidewalks for safety all the way.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
On the issue of sidewalks, I think we were talking about from the site down to County Line. Does I'll call it the westerly property line, does the sidewalk from the Hampshire Hills development end at the property line?
Anthony, you pull up A1, pull up the aerial for us? Maybe we get a little more information and see where we're going. And maybe zoom in here for me, if you can. So you can see we have, the ShopRite Plaza immediately to the west. We have, this is all, across the street is all wetlands and or a riparian buffer as well. You have some, existing single-family homes, some of them being changed to commercial, right here next to the, next to the site. What I was really asking is, if the ordinance requires sidewalk, along this portion of the property that's not being developed, and this portion of the property that's not being developed, and if so, we of course would request a waiver from that. Our understanding is nobody who's going to use this facility is coming from County Line Road. Everybody is coming from inside of Hampshire Hills, which is up behind the shore.
Well, how do you know somebody's not coming from Cook Road or Bartley?
Well, I mean, I can't say that no one's ever.
Exactly, so
I
you
can't-
need a sidewalk because they walk to the shul.
Right, and of course, I can't say that no one's ever going to do it.
So
But-
let's go on the side of safety and put sidewalks in.
But by and large, the majority of the congregants are coming from Hampshire Hills, which is north of where the shul is.
And County Line Road is one of our most well-traveled roads, so I wouldn't want to put anybody on foot.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
If I might, and I don't mean to sort of beat the developer up about this because it's not their frontage.
Right.
As a community facility, if folks do decide to walk along County Line Road to this new proposed facility, and there's an issue, they're going to show up at the governing body, and the governing body is going to ask the planning board, why is it that you didn't put the safety measures in place that are necessary to service a community facility? So I don't want to necessarily get on one side or the other, but this is the only opportunity that Jackson Township has to get someone else to pay for the sidewalks.
Which is what I'm saying too. Thank you, Mr. Peters.
And given that we can never get a 100% guarantee that no one is ever going to travel to the shul from County Line Road, I would always side on the side of safety.
Madam Chair? Good questions, and I think glad we resolved it, but I was talking at the other end where the shul comes into Piccadilly. Headed, I guess I had my directions wrong, north, where I see sidewalk being extended to the tracks northerly of the property line, but how far away is sidewalk within the Hampshire Hills development?
Anthony, maybe you can pen down. So the houses on this cul-de-sac are currently under construction. I know that there's sidewalk on the west side of Piccadilly, right up in here. I'm assuming, but I'm not certain, that sidewalk would be provided, for these homes on the cul-de-sac. We didn't do those plot plan, not sure if they're wrapping around the corner to come all the way down here, but that would be the obligation of these individual lots to construct sidewalk in accordance with ordinance requirements. So our sidewalk right now is proposed along our site frontage from the access drive to the property line.
So it's potentially that the developer of that lot will extend sidewalks down Piccadilly to match your northerly property line.
Correct.
That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Good, thank you.
Let's see, so then Mr. Peters discussed required parking.
Dr. Campbell, I just have one more question.
Yes, sir.
Could you again point to all the properties across the street? Oh, you mentioned wetlands. If you could just identify them again.
Over here?
Yeah.
Well,
No, on
that's
the other, on the other side of County Line. Because we were talking about if residents are coming to the facility from other neighborhoods, if we could just identify where those neighborhoods would be.
I'm not aware of any, to be honest with you. I don't believe there's any other residential developments in close proximity to this property.
Yet.
So, Dr.
outside
Campbell,
of
my
Hampshire.
concern, always with adding sidewalks where it's not necessary, is that we're going to end up pushing people to take walks in areas where we don't want them really walking.
If you come out of that street and there's a divided highway there, if you're going down this way, the former White Butterfly, which is now a florist, down in that area, there are possibilities for some construction along there. And of course, there's always people walking to the ShopRite area.
Well, correct, I mean, there are a couple of single-family homes.
are.
But these are in the highway commercial zone. I know that we have one application that's, finishing up to take down one of these homes and, which this board approved, to turn it into an office building. There's no residential, really to the west is ShopRite. There's no residential really on the other side of County Line Road. There's, I believe this is the warehouse building that's over here, the Edge restaurant down there. So our testimony is that the only people who are using this congregation are coming from Hampshire Hills. But anyway, the ordinance requires sidewalk to be provided, so I think the board has to make a decision what they're going to require. I'm with, Madam Chair, I believe in sidewalk for everywhere, but everything also has its own set of unique circumstances. Continuing Mr. Peters' letter, he makes some comments about landscaping and notations and things to be cleaned up, and we're going to clean up those. And then he, again, just talked about the variances for lot width and frontage, which I talked about. Mr. Klee has a letter dated September 20th, where he just clarifies for the board why this is a major subdivision, because, again, technically it's a new right-of-way being created, so by statute that makes us a major subdivision. He tabulates zone criteria, also picks up the lot width and frontage requirements. Talked about the environmental concerns, public water and sewer. And then he had some technical comments which we would agree to comply with. One item that Mr. Klee pointed out, which I think we should discuss briefly, is, Anthony, go to A2 for me. At the top property line, we have a buffer required. The new ordinance that was adopted last year, which is specific to this zone and this use, provides for a 5-foot buffer being necessary adjoining to or adjacent to residential uses or properties. So that's what we have provided. A different section of the ordinance would require a 10-foot wide buffer based upon building size. My opinion is that the requirement of the 5-foot buffer is more specific to this particular zone and actually part of this zone requirement. So I believe the 5-foot buffer criteria applies, and that is what we have provided. We do not have any site signage proposed. And then Mr. Klee has some technical comments and things for us to cross Ts and dot Is on the plans, and we'll agree to address those comments.
Ms. McFarland, the variance relief that you're seeking, are we classifying them as C1, C2? How are we identifying those?
I believe there are C1 variances.
C1 hardship?
Unique
Yeah.
condition affecting the property, yes. As to, I'll go through the letters first and we'll come back. We also have gotten letters from the fire department dated, last one was dated April 30th. We did make an initial submission, got some comments, I resubmitted, and we got comments back on April 30th. And there's just a couple of technical comments that relate to the Knox box, emergency communication. He confirms that we added a second fire hydrant that they had asked for, and then asked for the fire, give some requirements for the fire department connection, which we will agree to comply with, so we'll satisfy all of those comments. And then we got a review letter from the police department dated July 9th, and actually provides two comments, which really both relate to the need for a sidewalk, whether it should continue or not, and we've already had some discussion on that, so those were his comments.
Dr. Campbell, quick question. Do we have a copy of the wetlands delineation? Where exactly the wetlands end?
Yes, we've gotten an LOI from the DEP, and the information shown in our plans is consistent with the LOI.
So how far from county line do the wetlands go?
Well, if you can go back to A1 for me. And Anthony, maybe just zoom in a little bit here again for me. So again, what we have on this property is we have, looking at the west side, we have the stream corridor center line is basically this black line. And then we have the limit of wetlands, which is this yellow line here. 50-foot wide buffer, and then we have a 50-foot wide buffer.
And it goes all the way down to the orange,
That
right?
follows here and here, and it's also on the west side as well.
So back to the sidewalks, are we proposing sidewalks on top of wetlands?
Well, we currently are not. We're proposing sidewalk up in here, which is outside of the wetlands.
Correct, but if we had put sidewalks all around the property, we'd be putting
If-
it on wetlands.
If we are required to provide sidewalk all along Piccadilly, it will not be in the wetlands, it would be in
It'd be in
the
the buffer,
riparian,
correct?
The 300.
the 300-foot riparian buffer.
Right.
I still want sidewalk.
As to operations of the building, we did submit a statement of operation. And, there was some history with this application. We did go through a process with the zoning board before this new ordinance was in place. And the statement of operation that we've submitted is the same one that the zoning board had agreed to. And I'll go over it briefly, and then if there's any particular requirements, the applicant is here. Again, this building is about 21,000 square feet, a basement with 2 stories above. We anticipate multiple services per day, 7 days per week. Morning services held from sunrise to approximately 9 a.m., afternoon services before sunset, and then evening services between 8:45 until 10 p.m. at night. A Simca room or a social hall will be used for post-service gatherings. So there, the main assembly and the Simca, you don't have two separate services going on at the same time. Congregants go from one room then to the other room is the general way that it behaves.
No rentals?
Correct. Other social events included circumcision ceremonies and bar and bat mitzvahs are proposed. Again, the applicant can provide more detail on the bar and bat mitzvahs, because again, we did have some discussion with the zoning board about that, but he should probably put that on a record for the planning board. The basement has a warming kitchen only. There's no food preparation on site. There are separate men's and women's mikveh facilities, both of them limited to approximately 6 people at a time. Weddings, school, and youth camps are not to be conducted at the facility, so that is a restriction. And there's not going to be anybody residing at the facility, so no caretaker, nobody's living at the
You
facility.
said no weddings, no banquet halls, no,
Correct.
Rentals.
Yeah.
That's correct. And then, of course, the owner is responsible for all the operation and maintenance and parking, sidewalks, storm drainage, and
Would the,
refuse collection, all that stuff is private.
would the applicant be opposed to no parking zone from the north end of the property all the way down to County Line Road?
Well, that's going to be a municipal street, that would have to be done by town council.
But
Yeah, but
that,
would you
that
be
would be
opposed to that?
recommendation.
That's fine.
Good.
Yeah.
Recommendation, no parking signs. Both
And-
sides of the road.
And then we did have, again, I'm touching on what happened at the zoning board. We did have a letter of no concern from the Environmental Commission in March of 2023 when the application went to the zoning board. We did submit this whole packet to the Environmental Commission. I do not have a letter of no concern yet, but I know the Environmental Commission has been having some difficulties with their staffing.
Meetings.
But this is consistent with that, all the information previously presented, so I don't anticipate any difficulties there. That summarizes my direct.
Any questions from the board?
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
Mr. McFarland, in our report on page 7, under subdivision and site plan issues, general comment A1, the new ordinances that were adopted, 24457E1, indicates lots shall not have their sole frontage on a residential access or residential neighborhood street or any lower order street as defined by RSIS.
Right,
How-
that's,
A house of worship is permitted on a local street. However, there's only one access point along Piccadilly. Can you please provide some testimony? Because I believe if you, as shown, you may require relief, and that is under the zoning section of the code, which would make it a variance. I just want the record to be clear on
Well,
your
I think-
thoughts on this section of the ordinance.
before I answer that question, I think I'm going to punt at this time, and Mr. Kettle's going to answer that question. He's going to provide traffic testimony and discuss that in some detail. And I can come back if I need to.
Mr. Kelly doesn't do variances.
Wait, so, hang on, so if we're going to identify this as a different variance, how do we, is that what you're, Mr. Peters, is that what you're referring to? We're identifying this as a? Someone's going to give us an answer. Okay, all right, so we'll wait until, then circle back.
Any other questions from the,
I have a question for the attorney, thank you. Whether it's this application or another one, if there are prohibitions on, the topic would, on a macro level, be, should the board, whether it's in the law or in practice, be reimagining what the street is? What I mean by that is, if the method of conveyance by ritual, practice, custom, or religion is walking, does the sidewalk become, in a sense, the street? So if, just reimagining what a sidewalk is traditionally, and contrasting that with when, whether it's this application or another, I don't know, that's why this question is for the attorney. Does the law speak to applications, whether this one or others, where there are prohibitions from arriving at a location, for example, in a vehicle, and you can only arrive there as a pedestrian? Does the sidewalk then become the primary method of conveyance and essentially become the street? How does the law apply to that concept? This is perhaps a question for another time, but I think it's important. If that is the only way you can arrive at a location, does the street become the sidewalk? Do they become the same? And then what new standards or what standards would apply in that respect as it relates to developers' agreements or other off-site could be, ingress, egress, things like that? It may not apply here, I don't know, but I'm putting that question out there because I think it's a legitimate topic.
All right, so we got to break that down to two different answers. First, you got to go directly to the ordinance to see if the ordinance has some kind of standard for requiring the pedestrian access or sidewalks or whatever you want to call it. Second question of that would be with the developer's agreement. That's kind of like a negotiated agreement between the township and the developer. So really, I mean, you could put anything you want in there. But when it comes down to the customary practice, I mean, if you have a type of business that says, people are always going to walk to that place, or they're only going to drive to that place, and that kind of becomes the course of conduct between the parties. But if the ordinance contradicts that, you have to go with the ordinance. So it's a multi-layered answer.
I'm just putting it out there. For example, if you have a waterfront restaurant and the only way to get there is a boat, you're not going to have a conversation about sidewalks, right? It might be the dock. So,
Right.
but just if the means of arrival is
Right, but, and you still got to, and with that, you got to get DEP approval, or CAFR approval for the docks and for the piers and stuff like this. With this, I think they would actually, because of the fact that part of the street is in the riparian way, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you may have to go and get DEP approval for
To add
construction.
sidewalk, that's correct.
Yeah, so even if we require it, they still would have to go and get that outside agency approval for the construction of it, and they may get shot down, which brings us back to,
okay. Thank you.
are you gonna? You gonna jump in. So that's it, that's all I got.
With that said, and that's why I was thinking about these sidewalks, you have to go to the DEP no matter what. Maybe we can stipulate, instead of putting them in, that you stipulate you will apply to them and see if they'll approve it. Because then if they don't, and we order you to do them, you gotta come back to us. So if you stipulate that you'll apply to them, if they approve them, you'll put them in.
Yeah, we can agree to that.
I think that's a lot safer for everybody's concerned, especially dealing with DEP and the timing on them and everything else.
And I think maybe the magic word might be recommend. We recommend, we wouldn't require, because that would give you another opportunity to enjoy our company.
All right, so stipulate that you'll apply for it, and the board recognizes that if you get rejected for said approval, yeah, you can move forward.
The environmental consultant is basically saying it would be easier, if you really want the sidewalks, for the township to apply for it, because they might actually listen to you guys and not the applicant, because the DEP, as you know, is not the easiest agency to deal with. So we're not adverse to doing it. I just, if you really want it, I was just trying to figure out the easiest way to get it accomplished.
If you think going to the township is easy, I know you deal
I
with
will
it.
make our effort. We will apply and see what happens at the DEP.
Let's just all do our best.
We will.
I have a couple questions.
Mr. Trump?
Yes. You know me with the fire department. Can we bring up a shot of the building? Let's say.
Anthony, I think he's looking for A2, please.
So how would the fire department get to three sides of that building?
Well, we submitted the plan to the Fire Bureau, and they did not give us any comments about circulation. They only gave us comments about what they want us to address, and we've addressed their comments.
I don't see their letter.
Well, I have their letter. It was dated April 30th, 2024. You can have my copy if you want it.
We'll make a copy of it. I mean, to me, that's a major concern, especially you have a loading ramp where you want to now turn into EV parking. How are they supposed to get a fire truck if they have to pull alongside to ladder it?
Well, again, my testimony is that we submitted to the Fire Bureau. They didn't ask us to provide any other circulation or any other access than what we have shown on this plan.
No, I agree with you. Apparently, the fire department dropped the ball on that one. I'm just asking you if you have any concerns, because I do.
I want to comply with the recommendation of the Fire Bureau.
All right, well, they must have dropped the ball on that, and it's a shame because you could lose a building because you don't have any access for a fire truck, but that's just my professional opinion. So part of the problem with this building is you're infringing on wetlands, so that's why we can't.
No, there's encroachment into the riparian buffer, not the wetlands.
Pretty much the same, but let's see. Right, that's it, for now.
Ms. DeMarza?
Can you tell me about a few things on the statement of operations? I don't know if you were indicated the applicant was going to also speak to it, but what's the capacity? How many people can it hold?
Well, a question of occupancy, I would defer to the architect.
Okay. And as far as 7 days a week, so that's even on Saturdays, it will be sunrise to approximately 9 a.m., and then the afternoon services would be from 8:45 p.m. until 10?
That's correct.
And then during the week, I was in the area this morning, and there's a lot of school buses that go through there. I was there at about 8:30, so they would be, what time would they start?
Those specific questions, I think I'll defer to the applicant. He can,
Okay,
I'm sure he can give you more specific answers than I can
okay,
on
thank
those
you.
items.
Anyone else? We'll move right along. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to bring up the architect next.
All right. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
All right, please state your name and spell your last for the record.
Naftali Gut, G-U-T, licensed architect, New Jersey, multiple other states. I have testified before this board, and these drawings were prepared under my supervision.
All right.
Thank you.
And the board accepts the credentials?
We do.
Thank you. If you could, Naftali, just describe the floor plans and the elevations, and if you're going to rely on an exhibit, could you please identify it? And then when you're finished with your direct testimony, if you could address or maybe incorporate in your testimony the question with regard to the occupancy that was raised by Board Member DeMarzo.
Yes, for sure. If we could start with Exhibit A7. Thank you, Anthony. So again, this application is the construction of a two-story synagogue with a finished basement. The proposed first floor is 8,318 square feet. Second floor is 3,959 square feet. Basement is 8,367 square feet. Total of 20,644. The proposed building will be 5B construction. It will be fully sprinkled, will contain an elevator to all the levels, and does contain two means of egress to all rooms with an occupancy load more than 50. Starting with the first floor, the main entrance is facing the parking lot, brings you to the main entry foyer. To the left of that is one staircase. To the right is a hallway leading to the coat room, coffee room. At the end of the hallway is a second main entrance, which comes with a ADA compliant ramp. On the other side of the hallway leads you to the sink room, bathroom. Straight ahead is the library. To the left is the main vestibule, which leads you to the secondary vestibule, which leads you into the base medrash. On the back right is the rabbi study with a bathroom and access to the elevator and the secondary stairs. If we could go to A8. The second floor contains a gallery, contains a lecture room, which is used for small study courses. There's a kids' room for kids to play while the function is going on. There's a storage room, there's a men's and ladies' bathroom, and another little coat room for the women. If we could go to A6, please. In the basement, we have the multi-purpose room. We have staircase for men and women coming down. Each one has its lobby, and there's a men's woman, a men's bathroom, and a woman's bathroom, men's coat room, ladies' coat room. We also have 2 separate mikvahs. In the rear is the women's mikvah with direct access from the outside. On the front, we have the men's mikvah with 4 showers and a dressing room. And we also have in the back right, we have the sprinkler room and utility rooms. Just the basement ceiling height will be 11 feet. The first and second floor height will be 10 feet, with the exception of the main base medrash, which will be double height, which adds up to 22 feet of height. The total building height will be 29 feet, 5 inches till the top of the roof, which is 33 feet till the top of the parapet. The proposed material, if we could just take a quick look at A4. Our main material is going to be a stucco. Around the windows and the front is going to be engineered wood paneling. And at the base, we have stone, and on the left side, we also have a light colored stone. The occupancy load, base medrash, is 287 people. The library would be 14 people. The gallery is 101 people. The share room, which is upstairs, is going to be 15. The kids' room is 19. And the men's mikvah is around like 7, 8. And the women's mikvah is 4 occupants, 3 in the prep room and 1 in the reading room. And just to address the occupants, all these uses are not concurrent, so we'll never have that many people at the same time, but that is the occupant load for each use. And that concludes my testimony.
Will the roof be solar ready?
Yes, it will be.
Thank you.
You don't have to ask.
I wouldn't want to disappoint you by not asking. Ms. DeMarzo?
Wanted to clarify, the multipurpose room, that the capacity of that is 111, did you say?
That was 228.
Oh, 228.
Yeah, it's 15%.
And could you point out where the woman's mikveh is? I don't see it.
Farther behind.
And that's A6?
Men's is down.
I see the men's.
That's the access into the woman's mikveh from outside. There is no direct access from inside. It's a separate use.
That's what I was wondering. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
And I believe, because I had a little trouble hearing you, you did say there will not be 2 events at one time.
Correct.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? From the professionals?
I'd just like to say that I commend you on a beautiful layout. It addresses all safety concerns. I see there's egress everywhere. Just a really well thought out plan, in my opinion. I've seen some shows in my time, so
Thank you.
congrats.
I think Ray likes it also.
Okay. I'm wondering if this would be a good time to open it for these 2 professionals to be questioned, if there are any questions from the audience, from the public, just because it's fresh in everybody's mind.
Do you want to hear maybe from the applicant's representative, and you can ask them some questions, and we can hold traffic? Because he may be able to answer.
We can hold traffic. Well, it's up, let's make it up to you. Which do you think would be the more efficient?
Well, we can hear their questions, if that's, it seems like what you prefer, so let's go that
While
way.
they're fresh in their mind from these two. So what we're going to do is we're going to open it to the public just to ask questions of the 2 professionals who have testified. Is there anyone who has any questions?
Seeing no one come forward, I move to close the public cross-examination.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good. That way we know that that's taken care of.
Well, just to be specific, close the public cross-examination of
For
just
these
these
two
two
witnesses.
Two
professionals.
witnesses,
Right.
Later, there will be opportunities to discuss the project in its entirety. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next witness.
At this time, I'm just going to call the applicant's representative up, Moshe Lieberson.
All right, please raise your right hand. We got a new face. We don't get many of those. All right. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I affirm.
All right. And please state your name and spell your last for the record.
Moshe Lieberson, Lieberson.
All right. Please state your credentials for the record.
I'm a member of the Building Project Committee.
He's a fact witness.
Oh, okay. Fact
Right.
witness. Gotcha.
Welcome. Thank you.
And if you could, Moshe, just for the record, you had also testified before the zoning board in the original application?
Correct.
Okay, and I know that Graham went through a lot of the operations, but if there's anything that he missed, and if you could clarify a little bit about exactly what other activities would be going on at the site, I think that would be helpful.
Okay, so I did hear a question before exactly about the times in the morning. So the services are, there's a few different service times to accommodate different people. Most of us work and need to get out pretty early, so most people tend to participate in the early services and are out of the way. We're back home by the time our children are getting on the bus or already heading out to work. There are a few people who it doesn't work for them so well, so it's probably I'd say maybe about 20% or less who attend the service at the later side of things. But majority really got to be in the office by 9, so they're really kind of done by the time the school buses start really coming through. So that's typically the day is, say there'll be staggered 2 or 3 services probably in the morning, and then most people are at work throughout the day, and then in the afternoon they come home around sunset. Around sunset we'll have another set of services, and then in the evening we'd have services as well, where we typically at the beginning of it will have prayers, and then some people will stay to study, and then there'll be another option for those who come later to pray at the end, and that's kind of how we stagger it. It's the same people, but during the week typically not everyone's on the same schedule, so we have a few different times.
Any questions from the board for this witness?
So how many members do you anticipate having?
So we currently have about approximately 100 families. We expect that to grow somewhat. Not really sure how many ultimately, but I'm assuming that somewhere probably between 100 and 100, max maybe 150 families.
That's 300 people on a high holy day.
Is it safe to say that the growth is covered by the size of the building, meaning that the building is sufficient for any growth, potential growth?
We believe so. It's currently bigger than what we need. We kind of had that in mind. So like this, we can accommodate the people moving in. So like this, everyone can have it, and we don't have to start having issues that we're outgrowing it and we need another plan.
There's really precious little room for growth as far as the property is concerned.
Correct. That's why we're trying to maximize it at this point. So like this, we can have for those potential extra few families that still move in to be able to join and have space for them without any overcrowding.
I was driving there today and thinking, what a perfect spot. What a perfect spot this is. That it's almost like it was meant to be, that particular area has been left. Very nice. Thank you.
Thank you. When we started this project, we kind of took like an aerial maps, and we're looking, okay, where can we find a place that would be out of the way, not in anyone's way, could comply, and we said, wow, there's one piece of land left untouched.
Let me congratulate your congregation for picking that perfect location and working to make it work for everyone in the town. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
The members of your congregation, I don't know if that's the right word to use, but are they all from Hampshire Hills, or do they live on Cook Road, Bartley Road, in the proximity of the area?
They're pretty much all Hampshire Hills, nobody from the county line side at all. I'm pretty sure that everyone's from Hampshire Hills. There's nobody on county line at all, for sure not.
No,
Again,
the block before is Bartley and the block after is Cook.
right, correct. On Cook Road, there's nobody as well. And I'm trying to think if there's Bartley. If there is, then there's an entrance from Bartley into Hampshire Hills.
But there is a possibility that there could be people from there.
Again, if there would be, I can't imagine that they would walk in county line because all the houses are further than Hampshire Hills.
Yeah, but I can imagine them cutting through from that area behind ShopRite and cutting through that parking lot. It's not a long walk, so it's a possibility.
Right, but there's nobody there coming from that side.
As of now.
If I may, because we seem to have kind of segued into this, I've been getting little vibes from people who are a little bit nervous about the sidewalk proposal to the corner. They're nervous that it's going to attract their children to head towards county line, where they'll ride their bikes and things like that, where now it's kind of given that this is where the community ends and you don't go there. So I have been getting these as a kind of concerned messages, and people ask me, can you please say something, because we really don't want to attract any of the children to head towards county line. Right now they're contained in a very beautiful residential community, and people do have a little bit of concern with that.
No, and that's my concern too, and even in the police department letter, they express the same concerns. You can't guarantee that nobody's going to be coming from either side. It's impossible to know. So it's just a concern. I just wanted to put it on record.
Any other questions? We appreciate your coming tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to call the traffic engineer, Scott Kennel.
We get a new face and we get an old face.
You might take offense to the word old.
Young, old, young. All right, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do. Scott Kennel, Kennel, with McDonough and Ray Associates, located at 1431 Lakewood Road, Manasquan.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Board accepts your credentials.
Thank you.
And just, Scott, if you could, just for the record, your office prepared a traffic impact analysis dated April 16th, 2024?
That is correct.
And if you could run through your findings for the board's review?
Yes. As part of the traffic study prepared for this application, we did an inventory of existing traffic conditions in the area, as well as traffic counts. Traffic counts were conducted in January of 2022 at Hampshire Boulevard and Piccadilly Drive, and they were done from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. and from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. It was determined that the peak hours occur from 8:30 to 9:30 a.m. and 4:15 to 5:15 p.m. The next phase was to estimate traffic, and based on the statement of operations and the type of use, we projected approximately 150 peak hour trips associated with the proposed shul. We had basically assigned traffic within the community. Based on the testimony you heard, most of the congregants live within the community. And then consistent with the Ocean County Planning Board protocol, we expanded the base traffic volumes and evaluated a 2034, utilized a 2034 design year. And that included basically increasing the traffic volumes by approximately 12%, and then surcharging the traffic generation onto the intersection of the site driveway and Piccadilly Drive, and determined that due to the low volumes of traffic on Piccadilly Drive, the intersection would operate at level of service A for both the morning and afternoon peak hours, basically indicating that there'd be very little delays exiting the site, and that the driveway would operate safely and efficiently. Graham provided testimony on the parking and the site layout. And it's my opinion that the site has been designed properly to accommodate large wheelbase vehicles, and that the parking supply satisfies the requirement of the ordinance. So in summary, the site plan has been designed to provide positive on-site circulation. We have parking that is, with the adjustments that Graham had testified to, satisfies the township ordinance, and the site drive will operate safely and efficiently. That concludes my direct based on the April 16, 2024 traffic report.
And I just wanted to draw your attention, Mr. Peters had raised a question with regard to ordinance section 244-57E1, which states, lots shall not have their sole frontage on a residential access or residential neighborhood street or any lower order street as defined by the residential site improvement standards, period. And then the next sentence says, a house of worship is permitted on a local street. Can you give us an opinion as to whether or not you think the applicant needs relief from that section?
Yes. In reviewing Mr. Peters' comments, I've also then reviewed the residential site improvement standards, referring to the latest publication, November 6, 2023, and referencing Table 4.2 under Section 5:21-4.1, which is the residential street hierarchy definitions. And in my opinion, when looking at that, this Piccadilly between Hampshire Boulevard and County Line Road would fit the definition of a minor collector. And I'll go into detail here. The RSIS also provides traffic volume thresholds, but they represent maximum in that they say a maximum of 1,500 would qualify as a residential access or residential neighborhood. But at the same time, and I'll read the definition, for a minor collector, minor order of residential streets provide frontage for access to lots and carries traffic of adjoining residential access streets, designed to carry somewhat higher traffic volumes than lower order streets such as rural and residential access streets, with traffic limited to motorists having origin or destination within the immediate neighborhood, and it is not intended to carry regional traffic. Furthermore, there are no residential dwellings along that section of Piccadilly Drive. So taking all that into consideration, it's my opinion that Piccadilly Drive along the site frontage would be classified as a minor collector and then satisfy Ernie's comment in his review.
There is, we were pointing out, there is new construction still going on in that neighborhood. Not a great deal, but they're building homes there.
There are a couple homes, but they are north of Hampshire
North of Hampshire Boulevard.
with no access directly to Piccadilly. So I guess
Correct.
that's my qualifier, that there's no residential dwellings with direct access in that section of Piccadilly Drive.
And to that end, we as a board have discussed, and I think we've agreed that we will recommend to the township there be no parking on either side of Piccadilly from Hampshire Boulevard to County Line Road.
Well, the 100-foot is already no parking, right? From county.
100 feet is already no parking,
already in there.
but let's just cover ourselves there.
That's his direct testimony.
Any questions for this witness from this board? Thank you, Mr. Cannell. Good to see
Thank you.
And that concludes our direct presentation.
We'll open to the, unless our professionals have some questions first or comments? Okay, then let's open this to the public for any questions or comments on this project.
Well, I'd say, I got one issue that we may need to address. Ms. McFarland, if you want to come back up just for a second. When it comes down to the fire report, because I don't have it in front of me, it doesn't mean that it hasn't been.
100%.
Yeah, that's okay. I believe you. Yeah. So right now, you're going to be applying for DEP approval for the sidewalk anyway. What I would recommend is that the applicant at least make the attempt of applying maybe for a cut-through of the grass area in the riparian for maybe a drive aisle, something like that, so that emergency vehicles can have access. If you get
Pavers,
denied,
maybe pavers.
you get denied, you know, but at least
At least you've tried.
at least you tried and made the effort to see if an emergency vehicle could hit.
We can certainly take a look at that and make an attempt.
All right,
And try to work it into the application that's pending for the DEP for the riparian disturbance.
all right, and Mr. Tremor, would that be,
It's better than nothing.
I'm sorry. To me, I wish the building was in a different spot, so it was, you know, we're trying to improve things, and it just drives me crazy that we shoehorn these buildings into these little corners instead of building a building that fits the property.
Well, the riparian buffer would give plenty of room if it were grass pavers, would take care of that.
Grass
It's the-
pavers won't hold a 90,000-pound
Well,
fire truck.
But some emergency vehicles could.
Correct.
At least get there. And
But
we
listen,
do our best.
You're right, it's all about compromise, but why are we doing these applications? In my mind, I expressed this to Mr. Shea earlier, in my mind, we're here for the taxpayers too, and we have a general public out there going, well, I couldn't put a pool or a shed or a garage on my property because of this, why are they putting this building here? And while they do meet the basic standards, it behooves the board, I think, to kind of push to, let's change our thinking with what's going on here. To me, that's an issue, and this is why people have grave concerns. We're not trying to harass Ms. Jennings or Mr. McFarland, but we're trying to make the town better. You know, we want sidewalks so we don't have people
On the
you know,
street.
walking on the street getting run over like happened on Farmingdale Road this year. You know, and it's about safety. Me as a firefighter, what if they have to have a mass exodus out of that building? Something went wrong. Yes, they're going to go up on Piccadilly, but you're going to also have people that do live on Cook or Bartley, maybe not now, later, and there is a good possibility of them running out in front of a vehicle or a fire truck.
well, and I think the reality of the situation would be if the back of the building is on fire, the fire truck is going to shoot across the lawn anyway, regardless of a riparian right being there,
Whatever.
you know, and try to get to this. So if the applicant's willing to make the effort to get an emergency access lane to the back through the riparian and get the DEP on board, to be able to safely have the 90,000-pound vehicle access to it, you know.
But that's part of the problem. Now we want to manipulate the EV parking, you're going to be blocking it all with vehicles. You know, yes, we're trying to compromise here, but in the grand scheme of things, the way the general public looks at it is, this is very simple, pull the cars out of the way, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't work that way, especially in a crisis situation. That's why I take the stand I do, because I know the difference. I am the guy who's had to take a fire truck and push a car out of the way. And then you're getting sued because you destroyed somebody's property. So I'm just we're trying to change things. The fire officials, I know, are having a lot of meetings. The town is growing, the town is changing. And, you know, it's an issue. That's why I pursue it.
Mr. McFarland,
If
I
this is a step
did
in the right
look,
direction.
I did look that maybe those EV vehicles could be moved over to the far left corner instead of where we were talking about them earlier on the right. There's a line of parking spaces there that are not adjacent to the building, or even close.
That's
They're
fine.
a little
We agree.
farther away.
We agree with that.
Okay,
I
good.
mean, maybe even put the handicap parking because you have greater space. It's easier to get one car out of the area there. You know, it's
So
just-
if you'd look at that, that's
Yeah,
good,
I'm
Mr.
looking out for the
Trevor.
benefit of the building.
Yeah.
You're, like Mr. Heller said, you're putting up a beautiful building. Let's protect it. That's my point. You know, you have a bunch of people here that are very concerned and want this building. We have to protect them, whether it's a sidewalk that is not a popular idea, but we still have to protect them. That's my point.
Thank
Right.
you, good, thank you. So those changes may make things possible, more possible. Thank you. All right, Now.
That's all I
may-
got.
Now may we open it to the public for any cross-examination of this witness, or, well, let's just do cross-examination first. And the fact witness and the
Traffic engineer.
engineer. Anyone coming forward for questions for those people?
Seeing no one come forward, I move to close the cross-examination.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now, we will open it for general questions for this project from the audience.
See-
All right, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name and spell your last for the record.
Hari Davidi, Davidi.
An address, please.
My address is 16 Cedar Knoll Road, Jackson, New Jersey. First of all, I wanted to just say thank you for taking the time tonight to hear this application. We are super excited about this opportunity to have a shul, which is being built on a big lot in a big property, as Ms. Campbell said, far away from all the noise and all the houses. It's a very safe property. I just wanted to bring up about the sidewalks that was mentioned here tonight. If County Line Road had sidewalks, I would say as a resident, it would be great to connect that throughway. But since County Line Road doesn't, and it's extremely dangerous, and nobody from this community comes from that direction or ever plans on coming from that direction, anything that would be built there would have their own shuls and their own infrastructure. I think it would be, as he said earlier, much more of a danger to have that access, unless County Line Road itself is going to have a full sidewalk going all the way to Bartley Road, because otherwise now we're opening up a way to get, it's like kind of like the bridge to nowhere, where like you just have that sidewalk that goes nowhere. So if it would end at the synagogue, then it would actually push people to go into Hampshire Hills as opposed to out into a dangerous area. So I just wanted to make that comment. And as far as the fire goes as well, it's a very open area. So it's not a building that's crammed between other buildings. So yes, there may not be access for pavement, but there's plenty of access to get to that building. There's nothing around it besides for trees and grass. Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing no one else come forward, I move to close the public portion of the testimony.
So I'd like to have a little conversation here among board members. We usually encourage sidewalks because we don't know what the future holds. I do see your point. So your thought is that you're restricting people from potentially going from Hampshire Hills down to County Line Road to perhaps the shopping center, which might be an attractive nuisance. And potentially you want to keep people off County Line Road for safety's sake. That's your point. Any thoughts from this board on that thought?
It is an unusual situation. We'd love to have a guarantee from the applicant that they will not have any members coming from County Line Road, but I don't know how legal that is or even possible that is. But it is a good point, and that I did not think about, that this would be a sidewalk that leads to nowhere because there are no sidewalks at the County Line side, and also I see the point of not wanting to make this an attractive nuisance because you have the turn-in to ShopRite right there, and there are a lot, as someone who uses it all the time knows, it is not somewhere you want people walking.
Good point.
Dr.
Anyone else from this board?
So I actually also just wanted to, I guess, agree. I've seen residents taking walks all the time after services and other things, and I definitely do not want people leading in that direction. I'm a big advocate for sidewalks throughout town, but we also, only if it has a connection. So I personally would, I'm okay with him applying to DEP. Let's see what happens. But I'm not a big advocate for sidewalks over here.
Mr. Brezzi.
Madam Chair, during that whole discussion about sidewalks. It's out here pretty quiet, which I don't normally do. But I gotta say, I sat quiet because I was not totally with the idea. And that's why I tried to come up with a medium, at least apply for them. My personal opinion, I don't think, as much as safety is concerned, in future, you're inviting trouble by putting them down from the end of theirs to County Line Road. You're asking for problems. I'd like to see that part removed from the stipulations.
Okay. Anyone else? Anyone from this board? All right, I think that we all agree that the residents know their community and that there is a recommendation to cease the sidewalk at the end of the Schul's property. Okay.
Should we make a motion for that?
Let's make a motion for that.
Make a motion.
I'll second it.
Is this a
All in-
motion, is this a motion for the sidewalks? of the
Just a
entire
motion for
application?
where the sidewalk, there's a nice book called Where the Sidewalk Ends. It's Shel Silverstein, it's excellent poetry for children. Where the sidewalk will end, and it is as recommended in the plans. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
I am.
Okay, just so we have it on record. So let's do a
Let's
voice.
do a formal.
A formal voice. So what is being proposed is that the sidewalk will end at the end of the Schul property.
Mr. Brezzi?
Yes.
Mr. Bernstein?
Yes.
Mr. Marzo?
No.
Mr. Heller?
Yes.
Mr. Tremor?
No, I have grave safety issues.
Mr. Weingart?
Yes.
Mr. Wall?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Dr. Campbell?
Yes. Thank you.
Madam Chair, will we
Yes.
be getting a contribution to the fund for the sidewalk?
Then we'll get, now we get to it. Very good. Watch out for the township. We will now expect a contribution to the sidewalk fund. Thank you. You're welcome, Mr. Councilman. All right, now, you're going to finalize and
You want to summarize?
summarize, please?
Sure, just as indicated, the applicant is seeking both preliminary and final major site plan and subdivision approval with a couple of bulk variances, really that are triggered by the Piccadilly Road that was never formally dedicated and not going to look any different than it does today or looked yesterday. It'll look the same tomorrow. And so we think that the applicant demonstrated a hardship for those variances due to the unique features on the property and the location of the Piccadilly Road that's already built, and we therefore ask the board respectfully to grant the applicant approval.
All right, I'm just going to sum up the variances real quick. So the applicant no longer requires the parking variance. They're going to comply, so that's off the table. But there's 4 variances that are kind of textbook, quite frankly. There's a minimum lot width and minimum lot frontage on the left side as a result of the existence of Piccadilly Way. There is a minimum lot width, minimum frontage on the right side as a result of the result of the riparian buffer. So the type of variance that the applicant's seeking is a hardship variance, and we're allowed to give a hardship variance in the event that the applicant is able to deviate from the ordinance when there's a hardship caused by a unique physical or topographical feature of the property. Some circumstances under the case law is narrowness, shallowness, depth, irregular shape of the property, circumstances like DEP situations, delineation lines, riparian buffers, existing roadways, things like that. Once you identify that, then you have to go to the negative criteria and say one of 2 things, all right? Either the variance can be granted without substantial detriment to the zoning plan, and it will not substantially impair the intent and purpose of the zoning plan. In the situation that we have, guys, this is very textbook because of the existence of Piccadilly Way and because of the riparian buffer, which cuts the property off significantly. It would be a textbook C1 variance. So I'll leave it to the board to take a vote, but those are that's the legal standard you have to apply.
All right, we'll look for a motion.
I
I'd like
make
to
a
make a motion.
Well, everybody wants to make a motion.
You go, Ken.
Based on the application, I think it's a pretty good application, neat application, explained well. I think the movement you were willing to make on the sidewalks, what we finally came up with, as Dr. Campbell said, the location seems perfect for it. And I know that in a perfect world, we can't get every building to have a radius all around it for emergency equipment, but the back of that's facing nothing. So I think it's a great application. I think it's a good application. I think it was explained well. I make a motion to approve.
I second that. Sullivan, just, it's a good application, well-thought-out plan for the building. If there was ever a location that would be perfect for something, this is it. So I second that.
All right, now we'll take a voice vote, please.
Mr. Brezzi?
Yes.
Mr. Bernstein? Yes. Mr. Marzo?
Yes.
Mr. Heller?
Yes.
Mr. Tremor?
No.
Mr. Weingart?
Yes.
Mr. Wall? Yes. Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Dr. Campbell?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Dr. Campbell, can we take a 5-minute break?
We'll take a 10-minute break, please. Welcome back.
Thank you for the evening. Donna Jennings from the law firm of Wilentz, Goldman, and Spitzer on behalf of the applicant. As the board is aware, the applicant is here this evening seeking preliminary and final major site plan approval to construct a new synagogue with an accessory mikveh on property located at 922 Heison Road and identified as Block 1204, Lot 34 on the township's tax map. The property is situated in the R1 zone on approximately 1.29 acres. Both the proposed house of worship and the mikveh are permitted uses in the R1 zone. When we initially submitted the application, it was variance-free. However, after receiving thoughtful comments from the board's professionals, minor revisions were made to the proposal, which now require 2 variances from Ordinance Section 244-47E from maximum impervious coverage and minimum setback from a property line for the circulation drive. Applicant is also requesting 2 design waivers from Ordinance Sections 244-197J2A and to permit a 60-foot setback from the parking access aisle to the right-of-way where 100 feet is required, and also to allow parking stalls to utilize the required entrance and exit drives as parking access aisles. There is also 1 existing nonconformity on the property related to minimum lot width, where 150 feet is required under Ordinance Section 244-47E, and the existing lot width is 137.18 feet. The testimony will show that the proposal conforms with all other requirements of the township's ordinance. In support of the development proposal, applicant will call on the following witnesses: R.E. Stern, the applicant's representative, sitting to my left; L.E. Halpert, the applicant's site engineer, and he also is a planner; Louis Garfunkel, the applicant's architect; and Scott Kennel, the applicant's traffic consultant. As a matter of record keeping, the applicant has received the following reports: the board planner's review letter dated August 14, 2024, the board engineer's review letter dated June 26, 2024, Fire Bureau review letter dated June 24, 2024, the Police Department Traffic Safety Unit review letter dated May 23, 2024, and the Township Tree Specialist dated August 2, 2024. So with that, I'd like to have Mr. Stern sworn in, and he is a fact witness, not an expert.
All right, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I affirm.
All right.
My name
Please.
is R.E. Stern, and my last name is S-T-E-R-N. There we go.
Okay.
Okay, I don't know if you heard that, but S-T-E-R-N.
Okay, and if you could, Mr. Stern, just give your affiliation with the applicant. You are the applicant and affiliation with the actual shul that's being constructed.
Sure, I'm a member of the 922 Heisen LLC, and I plan on developing the shul on that property.
You want to give a statement? Go ahead.
Sure. So, the Heison Road, Sunnywood area of Jackson is rapidly growing with members of Orthodox Jews, including 2 of my children and their families that live there. There's no synagogue in that area that to service them, and I myself bought a property to move into that neighborhood as well. Therefore, this site is very appropriate, as we don't drive, as Orthodox Jews, we don't drive to shul Friday nights, Saturdays, and on holidays. Currently, the property has a single-family home and a shed on it. The proposed shul will be open to serve approximately 180 congregants in the adjacent neighborhood. Shul hours of operation will be as follows: Sunday through Friday, first morning service commences with sunrise or 6:30 to approximately 8:30. The evening services fluctuates with sunset, and there'll be evening services approximately 9. Saturday, first services commence at 8:30 and lasts until approximately 11, with additional prayers after at and around sunset. The proposed community hall will be utilized mainly as a social gathering space after services, and therefore will not be used at the same time as the main sanctuary. And will also be used to host smaller shul-related events, bar, bat mitzvahs. Large celebrations like weddings will not be permitted. There will be a men's mikveh that will be available for members that's open daily before morning services and Friday afternoons before Saturday. Other than Saturday, there will be no overnight parking. There will be security and camera monitoring system installed. There will be no on-site food preparations. There will be just warming devices for already prepared food. Deliveries will be only when there is an event in the social hall. There'll be one full-time maintenance worker employed by the shul. The employee will also be responsible for operations and maintenance of the parking areas, sidewalks, landscaping, lighting, utilities, stormwater management system, and building. Trash services will be provided by a private contractor.
No, I think you hit everything. That's his direct testimony.
Any questions from anyone on this board? Anything from our professionals? Ms. DeMarzo?
I just wanted to add one thing. It's my third time here, and thank you for listening to this application. I appreciate it.
One question. We have a
Sorry, I
question.
did have a question. So you said it could hold up to 180 congregants?
Complete, yes.
Completely, and how many members do you expect to have?
We probably expect around, sorry, thank you. Between 40 and 50 members
And where would they be coming from?
from within the proximity of the area. The furthest somebody would walk on a Shabbos is a mile, so, but there's, within that close proximity, there's a lot of Orthodox Jews.
Okay, thank you.
And I think you're stipulating no rentals. You won't rent it out.
Correct.
Thank you.
Does this have sewers or septic?
We'll have the site engineer answer that.
Thank you.
Ellie, if you can come on up.
My turn. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, please state your name and spell your last for the record.
Eric Halpert, Halpert, licensed professional engineer and planner in the state of New Jersey. I have provided testimony before this board multiple times.
Just a few times.
And these plans were prepared under
The
my
board accepts your
supervision.
credentials.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
And just to make sure the record's clear, he's testifying as both an engineer and
As an
planner.
engineer and a planner. Right.
Okay, thank you. If you could, Ellie, for the board, just describe the site and the area around the site, and if you're going to refer to an exhibit, just identify it for the record.
This exhibit could be marked, this whole set could be marked Exhibit A1. The board is looking at the aerial. The property is located on the north side of Heison Road at the intersection of Farmers Lane. It is identified as Block 1204, Lot 34. The board member just asked regarding septic and sewer, and the applicant has obtained preliminary approval from the MUA for both public water and public sewer connections. And the site will be served by public water and public sewer. The water connection will be on Farmers Lane. Sewer connection is going to be off of on Heison Road. Can you go to exhibit B to page 8 of this exhibit set, which is the site plan? The applicant is proposing to construct a synagogue. It will contain 2 stories and a basement with main sanctuary, a multi-purpose assembly area, and a mikveh area. The parking access to the site is provided both along Heison Road and along Farmers Lane. The applicant has obtained conditional approval from County of Ocean for the access along Heison Road. There are some comments regarding increasing the radius. Otherwise, no right-of-way dedication is required for this application. The main sanctuary assembly area is 2,085 square feet. The multi-purpose social hall assembly area is 2,410 square feet. And the women's assembly area is 1,196 square feet. And using the new township ordinance, that comes to a parking requirement of 59.2 parking spaces The applicant is providing parking greater than that number, 68 physical spaces, which includes 3 handicapped spaces, as well as EV spaces, which are provided away from the building. And the total credit would be counted as 71, although the applicant doesn't need the credit. The applicant is overparked.
Excuse me. One thing we did discuss the last application was that one of the EV stations would be a handicap station.
The applicant will need
So
to-
that would be the third one down the...
The applicant will need to comply with that requirement of providing
you.
handicapped EV, and that will be revised. The applicant is seeking to provide circulation around the building. There is full access all around the building. The property slopes a bit. The applicant is proposing walls along the northern and eastern side. The stormwater surface basin is at the Heison Road, along the Heison Road frontage, and not shown on this plan, but there's also subsurface, additional subsurface basin. I'd like to go through the letter. The applicant is in receipt of the board planner's letter dated August 14th, review number 2. The applicant is providing a mikveh that is less than 2,000 square feet. The architect will go into more detail regarding the floor plan area. The total proposed square foot area of the building is approximately 13,000 square feet between the first 2 floors and the basement floor. The architect will confirm the exact square footage. Regarding signage, the applicant is not proposing to supply any site identification signage as part of the original as part of the proposal. If the board requests, the applicant would be willing to supply. There is presently no site identification signage proposed. Regarding circulation, this plan is showing is a revised plan, and the plan shows full access around. This was a plan coordinated with the fire official. The plan requires a variance, 2 variances associated with providing the full access circulation. Namely, the circulation drive is 5 feet off of the property line, as well as the added circulation drive and the parking brings the impervious coverage to over 70%. I'll provide justification at the end of the testimony. It should be noted that Lot 35, that the applicant is adjacent to and is 5 feet off of, is owned by the same applicant as well.
Mr. Stern had just testified.
Our application is lot number 34. It does not involve lot 35. It is only 5 feet. The circulation drive is 5 feet off of lot 35. Lot 35 is owned by Mr. Stern as well. The applicant is willing to comply with the comments regarding landscaping and is able to provide the required landscaping. The applicant will provide both a fence and buffering along the property lines, except, as was just mentioned, the 5-foot width, not a 10-foot width, along the easterly property line adjacent to lot number 35. The traffic expert will provide testimony regarding the justification for the design waivers regarding the entrance drives and parking access off of the circulation drive. As mentioned earlier, there is, the applicant mentioned the refuse is going to be provided by private hauler. Typically, twice weekly collection will suffice, and the refuse collection is located in the northeastern corner of the property. To go through the board engineer's letter dated June 26, 2024. There are comments, there are technical comments, and the applicant is able to comply with the technical comments. Regarding soil cut, a complete cut-fill calculation was not done. A preliminary cut-fill calculation was done. The property will be generally in cut. It will be right around 1,000 cubic yards. And if a soil removal permit is needed, the applicant will need to request one. Regarding, there was a comment regarding the survey addressing, the survey noting an easement which was abandoned. There is a final plat, major subdivision filed with the Ocean County Clerk, map H2653, file 21396, that states a 25-foot wide access easement is to be abandoned if and when a roadway is installed from Jackson Mills, Heison Road through the proposed 60-foot road to the proposed Green Hills Farm subdivision, and that is referring to what is now known as Farmers Lane. And so the filing of the map referenced the abandonment of the easement with the installation of Farmers Lane. Regarding the property, regarding the variance that the applicant seeks, the applicant sought, this plan was developed actually, is not always, an applicant is not always able to supply full circulation around the building. Over here, in conjunction with the fire official, the plan was designed in conjunction with the fire official, and full access is provided around the building. As noted earlier, the property exhibits an existing nonconformity of lot width, and in order to provide a aesthetically pleasing and useful building, the applicant is placing the circulation drive 5 feet away to provide the access, all the way around, and thus the variance is required variance relief is required from complying with the ordinance of it being 10 feet away. Additionally, the added pavement brings the proposed impervious to just over 70%, under 71%. So I believe that this could be justified under C2. The applicant, this application is proposing a house of worship, and to provide justification under C2, the applicant must demonstrate that the purposes of the municipal land use law are advanced without a substantial detriment to the public good. And looking through the municipal land use law, the purposes, several purposes can be identified that are advanced through this application. A, to encourage municipal action to guide the appropriate use or development of all lands in the state in a manner which will promote the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare. The applicant is looking to construct a synagogue that is useful on a slightly deficient with property number letter H, to encourage the location and design of transportation routes which will promote the free flow of traffic while discouraging location of such facilities and routes which result in congestion or blight. The proposed application, the application is looking to provide good circulation throughout the site, parking which will be sufficient for all members. I, to promote a desirable visual environment through creative development techniques and good civic design and arrangement. To have a shul, a synagogue, which would be too narrow, would not be as pleasing, and having the synagogue the way it's presented provides a desirable visual environment. In order to justify the C2 variance, there must not be a substantial detriment, and what is being discussed are the requirement to provide buffer and screening. The applicant is still able to provide the screening. There is a 5-foot width which will be able to hold the some landscaping and fence. The 10-foot buffer is not being supplied to this applicant, to the adjacent property owned by the applicant, and the positive criteria are met. This is not a substantial detriment. In order for the applicant to be granted variance relief under C2, the negative criteria needs to be met in that there can't be the zone ordinance, there can't be a substantial deviation from the zone ordinance, substantial detriment to the public good, and regarding this deficient, this lot which is deficient in lot width, I believe that this is a good plan which is not deviating substantially from the zone plan. This is not a substantial detriment to the public good. This is a benefit to the public good, and I believe that the board is justified in granting the variance relief requested associated with the application.
Thank you.
So just to sum it up, so it's under the MLUL 55D, right? So it's A, B, H, and I.
A, B, H, and I.
Yeah. That's all I got until later.
Any questions from the board for this witness? Ms. DeMarza?
There's an existing home on the lot right now, correct?
Correct.
And so that'll be demolished?
Correct,
Okay.
yes.
And what's the square footage of that house?
Please give me a minute. Approximately 1,950 square feet.
1,950 square feet?
Footprint.
And we're looking at a house of worship here that's,
That the footprint is approximately 4,860 square feet.
and so if you were to not request the variances, what would the size of the synagogue or the house of worship be?
The size would be narrowed by approximately 5 feet. If you're looking for square footage, it would be 4,410 square feet. It would be more narrow.
And why wouldn't we want to do that?
Because the synagogue has several uses within that. There are several uses within the. It has the mikveh in the basement. It has the multi-purpose room, and in general, the main sanctuary, a certain width is desirable.
And our original plan, actually, we had a narrower aisle behind the building, and we met the buffer, and we met the maximum impervious coverage. And we don't technically have to have any lane behind the building, but the fire department asked us to make it wider, and so we did, and that triggered the buffer issue and the maximum impervious coverage
Yeah,
issue.
Madam Chair, I'm gonna cut in. I disagree with Ms. Jennings' statement about the fire department requested it. They couldn't put a vehicle back there that could make its way around the back of the building because they were using less than pavement in the area. So while I don't mind the debate, I mind the characterization. The fire department said they couldn't turn the vehicle around the building without putting more pavement out there, and they wanted to use grass pavers.
And you're also, are there going to be any trees left? Because I went out to the site and I saw that all the trees that are around the home right now all have ribbons around them. I'm assuming that, are you planning on knocking down every tree?
As part of the requirement, not every tree needs to be knocked down. The tree expert will need to take a walkthrough and determine trees along the buffer that can remain and would not interfere with the project. Most trees will be removed. That's contained within the impervious within the parking lot. There are trees along the buffer which can be saved and which will be saved, and the tree expert will need to make a walkthrough to determine that.
That's the township tree expert. Yes, thank you.
This is the tree expert supplied a letter to the board.
Now, I'm looking at a letter from the Jackson Township Police Department, the Traffic Safety Unit, from May of 2024, and they're indicating that they do not want access to the site from Farmers Lane.
I will let our traffic expert speak to that.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. Sidewalks?
Sidewalks are being proposed. Sidewalks are proposed. There is existing sidewalk along Heison, and there is sidewalk being proposed along Farmers.
On your side, too, you're going to put them in?
This hatched area where the pointer is our proposed sidewalks.
Yeah, that's because I was having trouble understanding why there was that gap, but that gap is where sidewalks already exist.
Correct. The reason why there is no
Right.
darkly hatched area is because there are
Understood.
sidewalks along Heison.
Thank you. Any other questions from this board?
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
To Mr. Halpert, I didn't see a dimension. Can you tell me how far it is from the building to the access aisle along parallel to Farmers Lane, sort of the front of the building?
Mr. Peters, you're looking for the width of the sidewalk right in front of the building?
Well, A, the width of the sidewalk in front of the building, and B, the total dimension from the access aisle to the building face.
The total dimension from the face of curb to the building face is approximately, is slightly over 6 feet. and take away the curb, and the sidewalk is slightly less than, slightly over 5 feet, plus the curb provides that 6 foot.
Okay, and you're satisfied that folks can get in and out of that main entrance within those distances?
Yes.
Thank you. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Anyone else? Thank you. Don't go far.
No, this time I'll call up the architect, please. Mr. Garfinkel.
Oh, we're looking out. We got a new face again. Okay.
Good
All right.
evening.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I affirm.
All right. Please state your name and spell your last for the record.
Louis Garfinkel, Garfinkel.
All right. And your credentials?
Yeah, I graduated Pratt Institute with a Bachelor's of Art in Architecture in 1990. I received my New Jersey State Architecture license in 1998. I'm also licensed in New York State. I recently appeared before the zoning board here in July, and I've appeared in other municipalities such as Teaneck, Passaic, New Jersey, and many times the New York City Board of Standards and Appeals, for zoning matters.
And your license is current today?
Yes.
Except his
Welcome.
qualifications?
Welcome to the planning board.
Thank you.
If you could then, Mr. Garfinkel, just for the benefit of the board, let's go through your floor plans and elevations. And if you're going to rely on an exhibit, please ask Anthony to pull it up on the screen.
Okay.
Anthony, can you pull up the architectural plans?
Okay, we can go to the first floor, a few pages. Next page. That's the basement. Let's go to the first floor. Okay. Next page. What is this? Okay, the plan submitted to this board dated 4/16/24 regarding a proposed house of worship, have been prepared by my office under my direct supervision. The proposed building is 2 stories, measuring 90 feet by 54 feet, with an occupied basement resulting in a gross floor area of 12,463 feet. On the first floor, we have proposed a main sanctuary that is 2,085 square feet. And will seat 139 people. There's also a lobby, coat room, and a library for about 35 people. There's a coat room, there's a coffee room here, and there is a rabbi's office, bathrooms, elevator, and 2 stairwells. Let's go to the second floor again, next page. Second floor will be occupied by the women, and it will have an open viewing area that'll overlook the lower sanctuary. This area is 1,196 square feet and has an occupancy of 80 people. Bathroom, elevator, it's a coat room, storage, there's access to the roof right here. Okay, and then we can go back 2 pages to the basement. Okay, in the basement, we have a community hall, which is 2,420 square feet, with a capacity of 161 persons. There's a food preparation area, and there's also a mikvah, maybe 6, 7 people at a time here, for men only. Women's bathroom, and there's a unisex handicap bathroom. And if men need more bathroom, they can go up to the first floor, which is
by code acceptable. There's also a third direct exit to the exterior. Again, to be noted, there'll be no cooking taking place in this food preparation area. Okay, we can go, I guess, back to the first page. Or the proposed height of the building is 34 feet 6 inches with a 3-foot 6-inch parapet wall. It's important to mention that the parapet wall is not included in the maximum building height per ordinance 244-156B. Regarding ADA regulations, access to the first floor main lobby is at grade level, and the other floors can be accessed by an elevator, and all floors will have ADA compliant restrooms. I would also like to note that this building will be solar ready.
Thank you.
Okay. I could go over the elevations.
You got the memo, right?
What?
You got the memo.
If you want to go over the elevations, I would bring up the Ellie's on page 7. There's a color rendering from the site plan. If you want to switch back. I think I saw page 7 would. I think that just one. Oh, keep going back then. Okay. Yeah, there it is on top. If you can zoom that in. Right. Okay. So all the elevations are similar. Light gray stucco with black brick trim around the windows. The same brick will be used at the 4-foot base water table, meaning the bottom 4 feet. Regarding signage, there will be lettering affixed above the entrance facing Farmers Lane. The lettering will be 1/2-inch thick, stud-mounted, cast acrylic. The area required for the sign will be approximately 7 feet by 4 feet. And this concludes my testimony.
Thank you.
Anyone have any questions from this board? Mr. Marzo?
Can you talk about the lighting around the building?
The exterior lighting, well,
Yeah.
as you see in the rendering, there will be lighting. I don't have an exact plan. We're going to have lighting on all 4 sides. That would be sensible for a parking lot, at night, but I don't have an exact.
And will those lights be on all night?
What do you think? They'll be on timers, but they won't be on all night.
And what will the timers, what time will they go off?
I would imagine 11 o'clock. As soon as the building is emptied out, which is usually around, could be 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock.
And you don't know anything, the detail about the lights, like how bright they'll shine?
I don't have that information, no. Sorry.
Thank you.
We would have to meet the ordinance standards, and we will.
You'll have sign on the street entrance? No sign?
No freestanding sign, just a sign in the building.
Can we have a small entrance sign at your entrance drive, just so that people know the address?
Sure, on Heison or Farmers or both?
On both.
Okay,
Really for the sake of the emergency vehicles.
Yeah.
understood.
Is there a lighting plan for the parking lot? Did I see that someplace? I can't locate it.
There is a lighting plan. It wasn't part of the exhibit set. It's
And
part of the site
Also,
plan.
we're always concerned about neighbors, that the lighting will not affect.
Yes, there is a lighting plan, and there are comments, and the applicant will comply with the comments.
Thank you. From our professionals?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Garfinkel, thank you for your testimony. I was ruffling through plans when you were questioned about the lighting. Is there lighting on the building?
We have lighting on the exterior, as you can see in the rendering.
I'm sorry?
There's lighting, you asking if there's lighting on the building? Yes, there is.
Okay, at what height? In other words, is it under the eave of the parapet at 34.5 feet? Or is it,
No, it's about 15 feet up, and the lights are pendant, and they're going up and down. It's just for a,
okay, so for compliance with the ordinance requirements, there'll need to be some designation of lighting from your plans on Mr. Halpert's plans for Mr. Klee, the board engineer, to do resolution compliance to make sure we've met the standards. Because respectfully, we don't want, there's a limit for height of lighting that's going to be on all night long because you're in a residential area.
Well, we said we were turning it off at 11.
You need to have his information on Mr. Halpert's
Understood.
plan.
Yep, you got it.
yeah, I understand. You want to have more details on that? Okay.
We also heard from Mr. Halpert that there's, at the main entrance to the building facing Farmers Lane, there's about 6 foot of space in front of the building to the access aisle and about 5 foot of concrete sidewalk. Are you satisfied from an architectural perspective or a building perspective that that's sufficient to get people in and out of the building safely?
Yes, it's 6 feet, and then we also have a 2 foot, the entrance doors are set in, so you have 8 feet at exactly the entrance doors, but 6 feet is sufficient.
Thank you. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board? Thank you. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to call up the traffic engineer, Scott Kennel.
I think you live here.
Yeah. We'll get you a cot.
All right. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do. Scott Kennel, Kennel, with McDonough and Ray Associates. Office is located at 1431 Lakewood Road, Manasquan.
I think the board accepts your credentials at this point.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just, Scott, for the record, your office prepared a traffic impact analysis dated May 1st, 2024, correct?
That's correct.
And if you could just run through your findings of fact and your conclusions for the board's benefit. Thank you.
Surely. So we have a traffic study dated May 1, 2024. It summarizes our tasks that we took place on this matter, including the conduct of traffic counts at Heison Road and Farmers Lane. Those traffic counts were conducted in September 2023 from 7 to 10 a.m. and 3 to 6 p.m. We then, from there, having the existing conditions, projected traffic volumes. In our report, we indicated that we projected the peak hour traffic volumes to be approximately 120 vehicles associated with the proposed shul. Consistent with the Ocean County Planning Board protocol, we looked at a design year of 2034, consulted the New Jersey Department of Transportation traffic growth rates, and basically increased the existing traffic volumes by approximately 10% to establish the no-build condition, and then we superimpose the site traffic onto those traffic volumes. And we had approximately 30% of the site traffic volumes oriented towards Farmers Lane access, with the balance onto Heison Road, thereby qualifying that Farmers Lane would be the secondary access serving the site. But we also then analyzed not only the Heison Road and Farmer Lane intersection, but the new intersections created by the site driveways. Heison Road and Farmers Lane is operating a level service B for the morning and afternoon peak hours, and will continue to operate at level service B upon full build-out and 2034 traffic volumes. The Heison Road and site access intersection is projected to operate at level service B. Again, the design threshold typically is a C to D. We're well below that, which means that we have plenty of capacity at the site driveway to Heison Road as well. There's plenty of capacity at the Farmers Lane and Heison Road intersection. As far as Farmers Lane, it is a lower volume roadway, and it's projected to operate at level service A during both the morning and afternoon peak hours analyzed. As far as the site plan is concerned, as was discussed earlier, the site will be served by two-way driveways. We sit on a corner lot, and we'll have full access to both Heison Road and Farmers Lane. We're providing 68 physical parking spaces, which exceeds the township ordinance of 59, so therefore we meet and exceed the requirement. As far as the site driveways, based on my inspections, they provide sufficient site distance at both locations, and based on the level of service analysis, it's my opinion that they can operate safely and efficiently, which I guess is also supported by the Ocean County Planning Board review, in which they've given us a conditional approval of the Heison Road site access. That completes my direct testimony as it relates to the May 1, 2024 traffic study.
Okay, and in Mr. Peters' review letter on page 6, he calls out a couple of design waivers with respect to the entrance drives and the location of the parking stalls. I think you're familiar with these sections of the ordinance. We've had them in other cases. If you could just, from a traffic perspective, advise whether or not those were acceptable.
Yeah, it's my opinion, based on review of the intersection analysis, which includes a calculation of queue lengths, where the maximum queue length was determined to be one vehicle, where we can accommodate two vehicles on the driveway throats for both locations. So in my opinion, the design proposed will not compromise the on-site circulation.
And the other ones with respect to allowing parking stalls to utilize the required entrance and exit drives as parking access aisles?
I mean, again, this is consistent with other types of non-residential uses. There's basically low volume, low speeds, and in my opinion, this design can operate safely and efficiently.
Thank you.
We have questions from the board. Mr. Sullivan?
Yes. About the entrance and exit on Farmers Lane, given the Jackson Township Police Department Traffic Safety Unit recommendation that it should not be allowed, what are your arguments for allowing it?
Well, in my opinion, it makes sense when you have frontage on two roads and that we can provide direct access to any of the congregants that live in that neighborhood, rather than having them utilize the Heison Farmers Lane intersection and then making another left turn into the site. So this is a more efficient means of access and direct access to the site. I would respectfully disagree with their opinion. I mean, we have good sight lines at that location, that the driveway can operate safely and efficiently and take into consideration any pedestrians or cyclists that may be on that section of Farmers Lane.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
Scott, I kind of agree with you, because I don't see the sense in when you can eliminate traffic going into a busier road, where you can put it right into the local road for their use to go where they came from and so forth. I definitely agree with that. I don't like detouring traffic into busier roads when you don't have to.
And haven't we said more than once on this board that we like dual access and egress? That we think it reduces traffic backups in the property itself. And it's, as a safety concern.
And I agree. And then the other comment about promoting cut-through traffic, in my opinion, to leave the site via the Farmers Lane driveway, it's a circuitous roadway network on Springbrook Road, Summerhill Road, and Winter Way to get back out to Chandler. That, in my opinion, it's not going to promote cut-through traffic. So at the end of the day, it's my opinion that the community as well as this site is best served with the two access drives.
Any other comments from the board? Mr. Marza?
So you performed your traffic study, when was that?
The specific dates were Thursday, September 7, 2023, from 7 to 10 a.m., and Tuesday, September 5th, 2023, from 3:30 to 6 p.m.
So at that time, you were able to see the school traffic as well? The buses were coming in and out?
That's correct. They were all accounted for in our data collection program.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments from the board? Questions, concerns?
Thank you.
would this be an appropriate time to open it to the public for, just for cross-examination purposes of the experts?
Yes.
Good. We'll now open to the public, not for general comments, just for cross-examination purposes. Thank you.
I was getting a little worried that you were sitting back there and didn't say anything.
I wasn't going to say anything, but something
So make
clicked in
sure
my
you're all
brain.
right. All right. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I will try,
All right.
absolutely.
And please.
Jim Seleckia, SILECCHIA, 6 Hartfield Drive, Jackson, New Jersey. The fact witness started earlier tonight and said the congregants could come from a 1-mile walking distance. So that includes people across the street on Heison Road. So my question is anything been discussed with the county, since Heison Road is a county road, to put in a crosswalk into this complex to support safety for people
You know, I think
crossing?
we've been through this before. One of the issues that happens with the county that we've asked a number of times, they do not put crosswalks in places where there are not corners or traffic signals.
And that was actually going to be my next comment, because on the other side of Heison, the sidewalk ends short of where the corner of Farmers Way and Heison is, so.
But it's not a four-way corner.
I agree.
Therein lies the problem with the county.
I agree, but now I know.
Okay,
Thank you very much, that's all I had.
thank you. Anyone else like to come and ask any questions of the applicant?
Seeing no one else come forward, I move to close the cross-examination.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now we will open the questioning or comment section from anyone who would like to make any comments about this project.
Seeing no one come forward, I move to close the public portion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Jennings.
Thank you. That is the applicant's presentation, basically seeking preliminary and final major site plan for permitted use with some what we deem de minimis variances and design waivers, and we would respectfully request that the board grant an approval.
Any comments from the board? Any comments from our professionals? Thank you.
I'll just put the
Good.
variance standard on the record. So what the applicant's asking for here is a C2 variance. It's different than the one that we had prior. It's called the flexible C. What needs to be proven is that the purposes for the variance advance municipal land use law under certain sections, and the benefits outweigh any detriment to the neighborhood or cause any substantial detriment to the zoning plan. What we have here is that the applicant is identifying that the purposes that they are that are benefiting the community is A, for the safety and the general welfare, B, for the design of the roadway to fight against any potential fires, H, to increase and promote the free flow of traffic, and I, to promote a good civic design. The purpose of this variance was to both comply and comport with the recommendations made by the fire officials to make sure that they're complying with the full 360 access to the property. That's what you guys are going to have to weigh versus any potential detriments to the zoning plan if you see any. And the waivers that are being requested are a reasonable standard, and you have to weigh that against any potential detriments against the neighborhood and zoning plan. But I'll leave it to the board to make those decisions.
Thank you. We'll look for a motion, please.
I'll make a motion to approve on the variances as the attorney explained them, and the representation of our professionals and theirs.
And waivers.
Looking for a second.
Second, Heller?
We'll have a voice vote, please.
Mr. Brezzi?
Yes.
Mr. Bernstein? Mr. Marzo?
No, sorry.
Mr. Heller?
Yes.
Mr. Tremor?
No.
Mr. Weingart?
Yes.
Mr. Wall? Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Dr. Campbell?
Yes, congratulations.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Please. It'll just make it so much easier. Yeah, I know. Sorry about that. Mr. Tremor, may I see you for just a second? I want to.
Dr. Campbell?
No, that's all right. No, I want to see you for something else.
Could we get a motion to
Yes,
adjourn?
we need to make a motion to close the meeting.
Second, Sullivan.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nay.